West Ham striker situation is legendary at this point, with the current crop now all over the age of 31. Mikel Antonio is, of course, out for the long term alongside Nicholas Füllkrug, and Jared Bowen, Captain Fantastic, has broken his foot, which means that West Ham will be in the market for a solution sooner rather than later. Thankfully, Jack and Darcy have been using AU's tools to go over Europe's top 8 leagues as well as their second divisions to find the perfect solution for West Ham's striker woes. Jack, who's up first for your list?
I've got Emmanuel Omega up first, who I think anyone who's played Football Manager will know about. He does pretty well on that game, and he's doing pretty well in real life. 21 years old. Interesting career path through Sparta Rotterdam to Antwerp, Sturm Graz, and on to Strasbourg, which are, of course, associated now very closely with Chelsea. So played in different countries, 6 goals, 2 assists in 12 games this season. Of course, that could change this weekend. We're recording on Friday, and all these players are set to play again this weekend. I'm sure he'll continue to improve his tally. He's played incredibly well for Strasbourg this season. Movement in the box is exceptional. Always attacks the right space. Saw that in their last game against Toulouse, which we covered on Patreon for Euro Review. 2 goals in that match. His pressing was absolutely outstanding there too. That's how he got the first goal, nicking the ball off Restes to score. Clean receiving, clean hold up. Better, I would say, with a bit of separation in the footage that I've seen. Not so strong when he's kind of straight up against the centre back and he's in that physical tangle. Although his aerial duel win rate is very impressive this season. The only thing that I think holds him back when we're looking at these targets and why he comes out probably in third place is A, I mean his youth, but B, actually the fact that he's at 2028 contract. He's at Strasbourg. That's Chelsea. That means it's going to cost quite a lot of money to get him out of there. And I think he's being lined up as a long-term option for them, really, if he can continue to develop in the way that he has done so far at Strasbourg. So, yeah, he's down in third place, but obviously a very, very, very good player.
100% a player that a lot of people have been speaking about, though. Again, anyone who's played Football Manager for 5 seconds knows about this guy. He's doing really well, and he has done for a couple of years now. Like you say, in the Chelsea groups are going to be difficult to get him out. Which
not that FM's the barometer for how we pick these players.
No, more a barometer for why
system.
I potentially might have recognised the name as opposed to anything else. Darcy, is your first pick big on FM? Will I know him?
John, I'm not actually sure, to be honest, but he is big in general, so maybe you will know him. And it's Antoine Bonny. He's a young French striker, currently playing for Parma in Serie A. Current season record of 4 goals and 1 assist, which I don't think is anything out of the ordinary. But when you watch this guy and you consider that he's only 21 years old, I think at least what I find most impressive is the roundedness that exists in his game, even if the volume of goals isn't there just yet anyway. And it doesn't necessarily matter too much anyway, because he's the mould of striker who facilitates the team in more than just the final phases of play in the most attacking third, rather than being someone that just scores goals, runs in behind a lot. He's very capable of kind of dropping in, being an outlet for progressive passes or longer passes. He brings strength, he brings physicality, and he's also very good at playing with his back to goal, both on the halfway line, but also around the opposition box. Some sort of drawbacks, even though he is a unit, 6'2" tall, and really never has issues kind of pinning centre backs or drawing fouls to hold up the ball. One place I think there is some sort of real question marks, and you'll kind of see from the radar chart we've produced on him as well, is his ability to bring those physical attributes into his aerial contests. He seems to lose a fair few, but either way, if you're looking to access him into like chest height or on the deck, he looks to be really technically secure. His first touch when played into deeper, more congested space is always tight and consistent, and then he links up with the midfielders there at a really strong rate too, 81.7 short pass completion rate. And I think when you start to look at kind of the Graham Potter era of West Ham with a box midfield that really likes and favours a striker who can drop in earlier phases, create overloads to build up through, link up with the midfield, and then also kind of facilitate opportunities for a Kudus, a Bowen, a Paquetá, he would be a good fit. And someone that's shown that he can reliably do that job in Serie A without sacrificing the physical attributes that I think we all really value in a West Ham striker. So you have a nicely rounded young talent, physically dominant in many of his matchups, links up in deeper areas really well, and is technically reliable. But I think just kind of a mixture of age and maybe lack of evidence in terms of output restricts him to just being my number 3.
Super technically skilled. We watched a bit of footage together, and I was pretty blown away by Bonnie. Looks very impressive. I've seen him a couple of times this season. And when we talk about strikers sort of next up in that João Pedro, Jorginho Rutter kind of line of strikers who have the physical qualities, but are particularly impressive when you fire the ball into them at any kind of awkward angle, at trapping it immediately and then creating something or progressing play by moving it onto to another player around them. He looks very, very, very good in that mold of striker.
And importantly, big, which is a big tick in my book. My book being a
I knew
single
you'd
page
like him.
that has one word on it, and it just says big, and it's a big tick for me, and that's happy. Jack, your second pick.
A player that's been very closely linked to West Ham this window, it's Evan Gesand. It's a shame Cal isn't here to do this one, because Cal adores Evan Gesand. 23 years old, Nice Academy product. The lovely sort of combination striker, half winger, half striker, has all the physical abilities to play out wide, all the technical quality to play out wide, but then a scorer and someone that has the physical qualities to play through the middle as well. Would be kind of like Liga option for Antoine Semenyo, maybe, that kind of player that has played both through the middle and out wide. 8 goals, 4 assists in 17 games this season. I think what makes him attractive is his ball carrying and the fact that he can physically hold the ball up, but then can also roll and carry forward so impressively, can create for others so impressively. So maybe not the exact perfect fit, because he's not played so consistently through the middle. He's kind of got half of his game time this season out wide, half of it through the middle. And I think with the other players that have been kind of linked over the course of this January window, and the fact that we've seen so far Potter comfortable kind of using the forward as more of a target forward, even when it was Lucas Paquetá, because of maybe the slight relative compared to Brighton lack of quality progressively in the double pivot, the willingness to go more direct into the front line. That doesn't limit Gesand at all, I don't think, actually, but I think you would maybe want someone that's got a bit more of a track record for just kind of back to goal, physical duels with the centre backs, that kind of stuff. But if you wanted to preempt that with a player that has all of the qualities to be able to do that, but maybe doesn't have the track record of doing it just yet, then Gesand is probably one of the best options, which is why I think he's been so closely linked. So yeah, really, really, really top choice, a good option. Possibly not quite perfect for what Potter might want instantly at the top of the pitch, and then also only extended his contract as recently as August of last year, so 2028 contract, so not going to come on the cheap, which is, I think, is what we've heard in January so far with those links to him.
Yeah, and like you say, very strong link. So someone that a lot of people are going to be looking at, not just West Ham fans, a lot of other teams as well, as he continues to perform really well. Darcy, what about your second pick?
Yeah, so my pick number 2 is Jonathan Burkhardt. So he's 24 years old, German forward, currently playing for Mainz in the Bundesliga. And he's having a standout campaign, to be honest, 12 goals and 1 assist at time of recording in the league so far. And is very much leading Mainz kind of on a charge towards the European qualification spots. And obviously, there's certain things that I think everyone who sees Burkhardt loves about him. He's a great ball striker. He's kind of got the natural instinct to go and score goals. But more so, the things that I'm drawn to are kind of like the directness and intensity that are just in everything that he does. So Mainz are as a side are particularly focused on like the transitional elements of the game, and Burkhardt is really the perfect guy to spearhead them in that focus for a couple of different reasons, or in a couple of different ways. So firstly, as kind of like an initial outlet when Mainz win back the ball, Burkhardt's really good at kind of dropping into midfield or a little bit deeper, getting in front of his man, and then providing like a quick one-touch layoff to help the team get out of their third, and then immediately from there getting on his bike and going in behind to kind of stretch the space. And that the second thing is his run making in behind. It's another key way he kind of helps the team in transition. One, he's really fast, which means he's always a threat in behind. But two, he's a very active striker. He's always making good runs in between the centre backs, and it just makes him an even more difficult prospect to deal with in transitional moments. And of course, I think it's kind of unavoidable to not mention just how ruthless he is around the opposition goal. Excellent ball striker, both powerful and accurate. So it's no real wonder that out of all the strikers in the Bundesliga this season, he's got the second highest goals to shots ratio, so super efficient. But if we think back to some of the things we maybe talked about when we were talking about Anju and Bonny, for example, like favourable for a Potter type striker. You're looking for someone that can comfortably kind of drop in and help hold the ball up, link up in midfield, but also someone who's capable with their back to goal around the box, contributes creatively in those areas, passes reliably. And yes, Burkhart's fine in moments where he's able to kind of quickly nip in, lay off the ball, and kind of avoid a dueling moment. But in situations where maybe he has to hold off or pin a centre back in midfield, or even maybe like contest the ball in the air, he looks a little bit weaker. And I think it's because minds are so transitional. You rarely see examples of him doing that kind of stuff we just described, linking up, passing, creating around the box, particularly when possession is settled. And actually in those moments, you often see him inside the box on the blind side of defenders, because really that's where his strengths are in the final third. And I think Burkhart is a great player and could very easily develop, showcase some of the qualities we've outlined, and has so much quality in the other areas that we've discussed. And I'm sure in any environment he would do well, but he would quite instantly excel in a team with a slightly more transitional focus in terms of his current profile. And that's just about what stops him being my number one over my number two.
Yeah, I can sort of sum him up as, you know, that was lovely, but what about just run fast, score goal? You know, that's kind of Jonathan Burkhart, isn't it?
The Jamie Vardy mold I've seen so well. We should say at this point as well that if you are interested in more of this, there is an extended version of this very show on our Patreon right now, patreon.com/analyticsunited. It's not just what you're seeing right now, but a bit more. It's essentially almost an hour-long conversation about all of the players we're discussing here today, alongside a bunch of others to make it more of a top 10 list, as opposed to just the 6 we're talking now, alongside some wild cards, some honourable mentions, all that stuff to find, of course, the perfect striker for Potter. Patreon.com/analyticsunited to gain access to that. The first 7 days is free, and you can watch it alongside all of the other amazing shows we do over there. But Jack, time for the number one. Who is your top pick for a Potter striker?
Yeah, there's a geezer in Belgium who's been really unfortunate to miss out on in this video and the test run we did that was on Patreon before this one came out. So if you want to find out who that is, you can go to that video to find out. I think my top pick is kind of a really, really obvious one. It feels really on the nose. It's Jonathan David at Lille. Contract is up. Has a track record. Incredibly long track record of scoring goals at a high level in Liga. 11 goals, 1 assist in 17 this season at the point of recording. 4 goals, 1 assist in the Champions League. He's got 82 goals in Liga so far in his Liga career, which looks to be coming to an end at the end of this season. He looks sure to move on. Obviously, that's why he's near the top of the list. I'm sure he'll want to get to the point that he's a free transfer because that works for him as a player. But if you can test Lille's resolve in January and maybe push that hard, see if there's an opportunity maybe to bring him in beforehand, then I think it would be worth doing, because he's just a reliable goal scorer. I think he's got all the right technical qualities to link up well. He has got the speed to get in behind defenses. So kind of whatever you need him to be, whether you need him to be a drop in and link up striker or someone who plays off the shoulder and drives in behind, I think he can do that. I think we've seen him probably more, or I remember seeing him more being an in behind type of striker for Canada, and then more maybe of a link up striker and then ultimate goal scorer as well, of course, for Lille. Where he does lack a little bit is in the physical confrontations with the centre back. So when I have watched Lille, I think sometimes in the aerial duels and the physical battles, I worry about him somewhat there. But I think, with David, if you put him in front of goal, he's probably going to put the ball in the back of the net, and that's quite an important quality for a striker, and not necessarily something that we've been able to get in a striker at West Ham for quite a while. And oftentimes I think when we have gone for that kind of striker, it hasn't quite worked out, and where it probably would work out a little bit better for David is where those previous strikers probably haven't been quite right for the managers we've had. I think David would be perfectly fine in Potter's kind of 3-box-3 system. He would link up perfectly well with separation and then would drive in behind and push the centre-backs back, create space for players like Bowen, Kudus, Paquetá, and then be able to latch on to passes, cutbacks into the box. And we saw a goal exactly like that Souček scored in the Fulham game, where it's a cutback from Wan-Bissaka after Soler's initial ball across the box. I think for David, attacking those kind of situations perfectly well and scoring goals in a West Ham kit. So very, very, very good player. My only kind of doubts again over that the physical elements of his game, the physical duels. And then also I would want to see a little bit more of him as a carrier in the Premier League. We haven't seen that so much this season in Ligue 1, but a good player, not quite as good, I don't think, as Darcy's top pick.
Yeah, so I think it's someone that, again, everyone will probably be quite familiar with, Hugo Ekitike. If you are unfamiliar, 22-year-old French striker playing for Eintracht Frankfurt, was previously on the books at PSG, loaned to Frankfurt last season, and then this summer they bought him for a fee of 16.5 million euros. And he's having a great Bundesliga season, 8 goals, 3 assists already recorded. But actually, a lot of the things that make him my number one choice aren't really based around his goal scoring ability at all. So we've kind of discussed at fair length the importance of a striker who kind of drops in and links up play with the box midfield. And one of Ekitike's, I guess, most regular involvements you'll see throughout any sort of game that he's involved in is this tendency to kind of drop off the last line into midfield, show for passes, often bounce them back out, sometimes play them around the corner. And you'll see this happen so often during his involvements in the game, and it comes out really clearly in the data too. Top 14% of Bundesliga centre forwards for passes received, and then top 9% for progressive passes received. So a really high volume outlet that can help you exert control in deeper areas, and then the team can look to build from there. And what I really like about Ekitike is that this kind of good work stays consistent when he's in a contested duel. There's examples every game of him very casually kind of pinning off a massive centre back, taking a touch and then laying the ball off to a teammate, or even taking a longer ball on his chest, for example, under pressure, securing it. So that's kind of the hold-up play portion of him as a player. But when we look at the final third, I think the biggest upsides and maybe kind of the uniqueness of Ekitike's profile become a little bit more clear. He's very much in the category, again, of like a creative, facilitative striker that kind of does his best work creating in opposition territory, and he really excels at the link-up side of the game around the box and can combine in quick associative moments with the deeper midfielders. 95th percentile pass completion ranking to show for it, and he's also comfortable kind of pulling out of the box into the half spaces and being around the box, not just in it, and then kind of being someone who links up passes into the box for other players to make the most of the available space. And it's that blend of attributes that I think puts him firmly near the top of the creative striker category across Europe, and the expected assists and shots created numbers place him in the top 6% of Bundesliga forwards this season, just to kind of underline that. And if all of that isn't enough, despite him being 6'2" and sort of I guess gangly in like a Thomas Souček sort of way, somehow he's a supreme ball carrier. So when he gets into one-on-one situations, absolutely ruthless, in the top 1% of Bundesliga forwards for successful take-ons. And this also helps him as a creator. Very often, he's often able to kind of find space after being a man, play a pass into the box. And he ranks into the top 3% for shot creating actions via his take-ons. And with that as part of his game, I really think he hits all the criteria. He passes and links up well in deeper areas, is creative in the final third, and then can carry the ball in a range of scenarios, not just in the final third as well, and has the physical capability to kind of hold the ball up and hold his own in the Premier League. And with that blend of age on his side and all the requisite attributes being there to quite a high level, it's kind of hard for him not to be your number one choice as a Graham Potter striker, I think.
Two players that have been linked with West Ham in the past, two players who have gone on to do very, very big things. Jonathan David's been at it for a long time. Ekitike stumbled at PSG and has come out of the gates firing, showing exactly that he was the real deal to begin with. It's a minor blip. And I think two players that everyone would be interested in seeing at West Ham. If there are more that you would like to know about, then we of course have the extended edition, like I said, over on our Patreon right now, patreon.com/Analytics United. As Jack said, we did actually do a whole test pilot of this show with an extended version of it that is available on the Patreon right now. So if you sign up 7 days free, you can watch not only this, the extended one, but also the test one, which talks about a whole other set of strikers, including not the one that Jack's referencing that was unlucky to miss out, my boy, who is very, very tall. And that's all I need to say. Do you want more? Do you need more? I don't think so. But if you want it, you should subscribe and like the video, because we'll be back doing more transfers as well as the West Ham breakdown and everything else on the channel soon. So like the video, subscribe, and we will see you soon. Cheers, everyone. Bye.